Alright, so this is the third video drawing isometric art, basically continuing on from the previous video, drawing this character walking, keeping in mind the isometric ratios. So we have his arms moving like that, forward and back, kind of swinging his shoulders a little bit, and yeah, so it's kind of rough. I don't want to kind of refine things too much at this point because we're just trying to get the motion correct. So yeah, let's move on to the legs. Okay, so I'm trying to think, how should the legs look? Because right in this frame, he's just standing there, and we don't want to use the frame where he's just standing there, where 2 feet are just, placed on the ground at the same time. Because when you're walking, usually you have well, in running you have only 1 foot on the ground at a time. Walking, I think you have 2 feet on the ground, and but that's when they're far apart or further apart, not when they're side by side like that. So we won't be able to use this frame. We could use half of it, we could use the one of the legs, and the other leg kind of be bent, like it's traveling forward. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so we want to find a frame that's easy to build off of, easy to visualize. So find a frame where one arm's all the way forward and his other arm's all the way back, and then that'll give us an idea as to how the legs should look. Because generally speaking, when you're walking, when one arm's all the way forward, the leg on the same side generally is all the way back, because it's kind of like you're offsetting your arms from your legs or whatever, kind of keeping yourself in balance. You don't use the same foot and the same arm to go the same way or whatever. Anyways, so we find a frame where his arm is all the way back, like this one, and his arm's all the way forward. And then so that'll give us an idea how to draw the legs, like I just explained. Anyways, so which frame is this? This frame. Okay, so we have, okay, we can't really see where the legs are, but anyways, and we have to keep in mind the isometric ratio. We have this line here to help measure things. So we have, where's this foot? This foot's around there on the isometric line ratio. It's traveling forward in the direction that he's facing. Yeah. So, okay, so let's think this line is like the floor. And if we do that, then it'll help us. So the arm's going back, so the arm or the leg on the same side should go forward. It should be extending all the way forward. So I think his waist, hip area is right there, where his leg rotates from. So let's say it goes like that. His leg, his foot is forward, and yeah, something like that. Now this thing behind it's kind of getting confusing, so I'll make that invisible and then I'll just keep drawing. Keeping the proportions as good as I can imagine them. Now, I guess his hip might come forward a bit. Or his hips might rotate, kind of extend. So, let's see what's going on here. Actually, let's just move that like that. I think that looks alright. Yeah. So that's his leg area. Legs forward, fully extended. And his other leg will be back. So we have the hip over here, and his leg will be back. His knee's kind of behind this leg, so we won't draw it. We'll just kind of draw his kind of foot, I guess. I think that's alright. Actually, I think when you're walking, generally speaking, your feet kind of get closer together when they're further apart, because you're trying to like balance things out, because you can't keep your legs the same distance apart when you're extending one back and one forward. So generally speaking, they get kind of closer together along the axis, the center axis of the character. So probably bring this foot down a bit. Just keeping it rough because might have to change it. Anyways, that's kind of that frame, I suppose. Also, his legs are further apart, so his body has to come down more, because when you move your legs apart, generally you kind of lower yourself, and when they're like closer together, you stand higher, basically. So I'm going to move his arms down. And maybe this. Okay, so let's get on to the next frame. Why is that? Getting confused. Oh, okay, so for the arms, we just had the arms kind of reversing the frames, but for the legs, we can't really do that because the legs bend, so every frame will be different. So basically, we had this frame duplicated from this other frame, so we'll have to create a unique frame and basically yeah, do that basically. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so we could see the previous frame. The leg's gonna bend, be less extended. His foot's gonna be on the ground, flat on the ground. Previous frame, his heel was just on the ground. So now it's just flat on the ground. So, okay, so there's that. I'm gonna shorten the leg just because it's getting more straight down rather than extended. So it's less, what's the word? It has more foreshortening going on now in relation to the perspective that we're looking at it, if that makes sense. So actually I'm gonna kind of do that. Yeah, that looks good. So yeah, his other leg comes forward a little bit. It's gonna be more bent because usually you kind of pick your foot up to kind of swing it forward, otherwise it would just scrape on the ground. So it's kind of picked up a little bit, and yeah, we got to keep in mind the isometric ratio and just kind of make it look as if it's not as if it's kind of staying along that line, this line up here. So you know, if this is the floor down here, it's kind of, oh, that's a bit weird. You know, that foot is next to it, and then the other foot kind of has to run parallel to it. But you gotta keep in mind other factors in it as well. You know, he's bending his knee more, so that his foot has to go a little further away from that line because it's higher, and you know, all these types of things. And if you don't know what to look for, usually you miss some things and it doesn't look entirely accurate or as good as it could be. But the more you look at it, the more you notice these types of things, and the more you become aware as to what to check and what to, you know, oops, what's happening here? I think I'm drawing on the wrong layer. Okay, so that is coming forward, and so we got that. Could already see it's like moving. Okay, so this I'm going to what am I going to do? I'll just duplicate this layer and modify it a little bit. All that really needs to change is his leg, just slightly, because he's bringing it forward in his foot. So, yeah. And that's probably not probably needs more foreshortening going on, because I'm too used to like drawing things from side view. So yeah, like that. I know it doesn't look entirely, actually it does look good. So yeah, and then so his knee comes forward. I'm maybe extend it down a little bit. Some things you just gotta like experiment with to see what looks good, what looks better. You know, what makes more sense, what doesn't make as much sense. I think when he's just standing straight, his legs kind of were a little far apart, but when you're walking, generally you keep your feet kind of closer together. So it might be good if I kind of move this leg in a little bit, just so that kind of like, because this foot right here is right there next to the line. You can see how far it is, but if we move it, see if we move this line down to where it is, see how his foot goes out? See, now it's kind of weird because it's not like traveling that same line. And generally when you're walking forward, you're walking in a straight line. Generally, you kind of wobble a little bit, but, I'm going to going to move this up a little bit and to the side, more towards the center axis of the character. Actually, I think that's alright like that. Yeah, so he's like walking. Okay, now this frame. Just continue. Okay. Basically, it'll be like the other frames, or the opposite, the mirror image of. Actually, no. Okay. Okay, so his leg goes back a little bit. And this leg, probably around the same location, but the lower part has to swing forward now. Just doing it rough, just to get a general idea. Okay, this leg, probably, you don't want it going too far back because the leg doesn't really bend that way. You want to keep the lower part of the leg foreshortened because it's starting to bend. Yep. His foot, kind of like that, I guess. It's a bit tricky, but it's alright. You don't want it going too far away from that line. Remember, we had the legs and feet kind of going around along this line right here, and because that's kind of where the center axis is. If you see it right here, kind of goes through there. So along here, just kind of traveling along the center line, and right here it's kind of on the center line. It's alright, but I want to move it down slightly, just so that it isn't directly on that center line. I think that looks alright. Okay, so I think that works. I could always come back to this frame if it doesn't look alright. Okay, so the next frame will be the opposite of this frame. This is where his arms are fully extended and his legs are fully extended, and so like we're getting to a point where this frame, the arms are fully extended, so the legs should be fully extended as well. So yeah, we just kind of look at this other frame because we want it to kind of mirror the motions. Each leg should mirror the other leg, but the motions are kind of offset by a few frames. Okay, so fully extended, fully whatever. So, oops. Okay, so I think it's this one. Is this one? Yeah, there it is. Previous frame was that, so just kind of hide that a little bit just so we kind of see where we're at. Like onion skinning, basically you can see like transparent layer of the previous frame. So this, oops, I'm drawing on the wrong frame. Anyways, So this leg comes forward and is fully extended. Foot is up, heel touching the ground. Roughly speaking. This leg back a bit. I don't want it too far back because the leg doesn't bend at the hip backwards like that, or too far back. But his hips are kind of rotating a bit, his waist, so his feet should be kind of back like that. His toes down, I guess. I'm kind of referencing the other frame that we did, the opposite, or the mirrored opposite. I don't know. Okay, so I need to kind of make sure I foreshorten things because I'm not doing that. I need to. It's kind of foreshortening stuff. It's kind of difficult. You don't naturally want to do it, so you gotta kind of force yourself to do it because it kind of looks strange, kind of compacting things and making it all smaller and making things look as if they're hidden behind other things when you want to see the thing. So, but in the end, it actually looks more accurate because that's how things are represented or whatever. So it's more foreshortened. Gotta make sure it's foreshortened. There we go. I think the problem though is that his legs are fully extended, so his body should move down a bit. I'm just going to move the whole thing down because I think I made the feet a little too high. Also, I think I should move the legs back to the left a bit, just so that they're underneath the torso. Yeah, because they were kind of, getting a bit too far forward, I think. That's alright, I think. That looks alright. See, I'm doing it again. I'm trying to push this leg forward. Is that looks a bit odd to me, but I don't know, maybe I'm just not. Things look different when they become foreshortened. So what looks odd to you might actually look the way it should look. So we have that going. I have this kind of using the same frame when it shouldn't. So just fully forward. Okay, so now his legs should bend. foot flat on the ground. Because the previous frame it was just his heel, and now his foot's flat. Coming back a bit. Slight foreshortening going on, I think. And his other leg, his knees coming forward. Leg is going to be really foreshortened because he's bending it even more. So it needs to be like hidden behind, like that. Okay, now I need to check these other frames just to kind of see how it does the motion. Okay. Going to bring this back a little bit. This one forward, I think his legs were a little too far apart. Going to raise that just slightly. Okay, so I can always adjust things if it doesn't look alright. My card is full. Okay, so anyways, the camera stopped recording because it's full. Anyways, so let's see. Next frame is this one. We don't want to use a frame where his legs are straight. Just duplicate that because one of the legs will be straight and one will be bent. Which one's bent? That one's bent. And it'll also be forward a little bit. And so kind of like that. And kind of look at the other one, see what that's like. So it's because this one's actually, let's move the back leg back just slightly. Maybe move it down like that. And that. Okay, so and then this leg is coming forward. Yep. Okay, now it's going to be foreshortening. Something looks off. Is that right? Oh, because he has to swing his leg, so, or has to start rotating forward. So, I think, actually it doesn't look too bad. Probably just needs to move it down like that. Yeah. So just needed to move it down like that, basically. Okay, so we have that. Next frame. It's this one. So we can just paint that so that we can see that frame there. Just to use it as reference. Now it's going to be somewhere in between these two frames. Something like that. This leg's going to be hidden slightly. Just draw the leg or the foot there. It's going to be actually probably needs to extend forward more, and then foot. It kind of gets confusing because like both feet are like directly over each other. So it's kind of confusing me. So this leg should probably go down forward a bit more, just to accentuate that slightly. There we go. When it's moving, it'll probably just blend together and it'll probably look alright. I'm going to just fill out the body just so that it looks more human form, I guess. Okay, let's see how this looks. That looks really good. So he's walking. That turned out really well. It's kind of confusing because there's multiple frames being shown at the same time, but I'll clean that up. I just want to kind of fill out his body. So making sure his neck, I'll probably just copy his head and paste it. I made that line right here go over because that's in front of the arm, his chest. Should probably do it the same for this one right here. Just kind of make his chest stick out a bit in front of his back arm. Yeah. So got his shoulder, neck area. Okay, that's that. So in here, which one is this? Is that it? Yeah. Just, I think that's right. And this one, just kind of round that out a bit. Right, put something there. Okay, so, and then, wait a second. Looks like his body's getting a bit thinner there. I'll fix that. Just kind of extend it forward. Just extend that forward because, you know, his chest area. Right there too. Looks a bit odd. Is that right? I think that looks okay, I guess. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. Okay, I want to get rid of this thing. So I want to start removing those things just so that we could see each frame on its own. Okay, let's see how this looks. Looks pretty good. Okay, now let's add the head. Just copy that. Okay, so where should it go? Is that right? Okay, so his body moves down a bit. It's alright, I guess. And it comes up a little, I think. Actually, so it's like, whoa, what? Down, up. Let's try that. Okay, and then where is it going? In there, I think. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now let's refine the frames. Let's get this thing done. Okay, oops. Okay, so yeah. Okay. Where's the opening? There it is. Okay, so whoops. Basically just drawing the same details over and over, but just making it fit character in the same locations that you expect to find them. Does that look right? No, it should come up because his body's going up a little bit. What's going on there? Guess that's alright. This arm is, I don't know, I guess that's alright. Now this frame, just gotta fill things in, and then this color. Sometimes it's a bit, sometimes you're not sure where to place things, and in that case you just gotta try placing it somewhere, and if it doesn't look right, change it. Oh, what the? That's alright. What? Forgot to put his belt thing. Is that right? No, it goes forward a little bit. Thing is, yeah, torso's moving, rotating that way, so probably should get actually, yeah, like that. That's a little bit better, and that should be down further. Just kind of continue the same similar dimensions as the previous frame, and then he's doing that. Okay, probably back there. Okay. Actually, that's alright. Put that there. Alright, let's see how this looks. Okay. Looks good. And you can just kind of refine the pixels a little bit around the edges. So let's see. I mean, there's not much left to do here. Kind of clean up the edges a little bit in places that need to be cleaned up. See, just, you know, adjusting things, pixel here, pixel there. Yeah. Not much to it at this point. But I just want to, you know, finish this thing. So, yeah, just... This is where the work gets kind of tedious, because you're doing the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't really challenge the mind too much. So it kind of... This is the part that kind of feels like work. almost done. If you can get through all the previous steps, then this step is pretty easy. Just adjusting all the little pixels, making sure, like for instance, okay, say what I'm generally doing here is so we have like these lines like that. This is just random line, but you can see how jagged it looks. Like it goes like up, right, you know, all the time, pixel by pixel. And basically what I'm doing, I'm kind of like smoothing things out a bit, like that. You know, taking off those edges. You know, so like there's not so many pixels that are like sharing their edge, like that. The edges are touching, but if I do that, only their corners are touching. So, and that helps kind of makes it less chunky looking, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it. But you get the idea, I think, right? So, yeah, I'm just, you know, just cleaning things up, taking off those, you know, extra pixels that don't necessarily add anything to the image, and just kind of make it seem, you know, thicker than usual. And sometimes it's already all right to have them, like right here. Some of the pixels are sharing edges, but that's alright. It doesn't really take away from the image too much. And it kind of depends how the lines are laid out. Sometimes it makes more sense to have pixels share edges, like in a vertical line, they all share edges. So yeah. Almost done. Come on. Almost there. Come on. Hurry up. Okay, that frame is good already. Yes. This video is going to be a long one. Alright. Alright, that's good enough. Just trying to get this done quick. Okay, yeah. I'm sure you get the idea already, so, you know. This is all just repetitive things. Yeah. Almost there. Yep. Okay. Alright, yep. That looks alright, yep. Looks okay, yep. Last frame. Yeah. course, I could add some shading and other values and tones and etc. You could take it as far as you want to go, each frame. Just depends how much work you want to put into it, what style you want it to look like. Alright. Oops. Hopefully I'm not adjusting these edges too much because it might affect the motion. But I think it'll be alright. Got that there, we got there, over there, over there, over there, over there. That's alright. Foot's a little weird, so there, there. Oops. That's alright. Yeah, that's good. Could leave that like that. Whoa, what the? Anyways, you get the idea. Let's remove that little thing by the feet. Okay. So there you have it. A walking animation, isometric perspective. And yeah, it turned out really good. Some things might be off a little bit. I could already notice a few things that seem a little off, but you know, I can go in and change those things, and yeah, until I'm satisfied with it. But I think for what it's worth for this video, I think that's a good representation of how to animate an isometric character, what things to kind of keep in mind when doing it. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, anything you want me to kind of, you know, do a video about, you know, just leave me a message and stuff like that. So yeah, that's it.